and payer follow-up as part of the Revenue Cycle Management Training Series. A couple of quick housekeeping things. For many of you who've been joining us before, you know that you will be on mute, but we do invite you to chat in your questions during the course of the presentation. Normally the chat box will be in your lower right-hand corner of your screen, and if you don't see it there, then pop up to the top right-hand corner. You'll see a little blue ball that says chat. If you click on that, then your chat dialog box should come up. Please chat your questions to the host and presenter, and I'll make sure that we'll be able to see those. So, claim submission and payer follow-up. Quick review, MCTAC, the Training, Consultation, and Educational Resource Center. This is the second learning community that we've had regarding revenue cycle management. And our overall goal is to provide you support and improve your strategies, including some of the business strategies. And today's really an overview of a portion of the revenue cycle management of the revenue cycle for your consideration. So a couple of quick things that we do know. For 2 years, obviously you'll know that the Medicaid managed care plans will be required to contract with providers that serve 5 or more of their enrolled individuals. You need to be taking a look at where your current clients are, what plans they're enrolled in, and ensuring that you have contacts with those managed care companies for you to be able to bill for those clients. The MCOs are going to pay the Medicaid fee for service or the governmental rate for all authorized procedures delivered to individuals enrolled in managed care plans and the HARPs. Those individuals who are in the HARP plans and will be eligible for home and community-based services, those rates are currently listed in the HCBS fee schedule. We'll be taking a look at where you'll be able to find those when we get to the end of the presentation and talk again about the resources that are available to you. I always like to start with a definition of revenue cycle. I don't think we can talk too much about that it is in fact a cycle of activities that have interdependencies from the starting point when you're contacted by a client and looking to enroll them to the program to the end of the cycle, where you've received payments for services that you've provided, and all the activities that have to occur in between to make sure that you are billing all those services that are allowable. You're billing the full rate that is available to you, that you're meeting your regulatory requirements, and at the end of the day, you will be able to keep your revenue is subsequent to an audit where somebody will come in and take a look at all those activities and ensure that they were done correctly to support the revenue that you've received. So what's the impact? Well, we work with a lot of clinics around New York State, and it's not unusual to see denials in non-payment rates, sometimes in the 6% range, sometimes in the 8% range, and sometimes upwards of 12%. And it just provides this little chart here to help you visualize what the impact is. So in a yearly revenue, if you're a smaller clinic and you're billing out about $2 million in revenue, a 10% denial, void, or non-bill rate, 10% of your services could lead to you leaving close to a couple $100,000 in revenue on the table. And as we all struggle with bringing in our clinics in the financial and break even or within the financial expectations that we have for the clinic. Denials, voids, or non-billed or under-billed services can have a huge impact on our ability for our clinics to be viable. So part of what we're really concerned about as we move forward to Medicaid managed care is to assure that we all have our billing shops running efficiently and smoothly. We can probably anticipate some bumps in the road as we make the conversion to managed care. One of the things that we want people to be thinking about is that having their shops clean, efficient, and effective, which will allow us to move through those bumps more quickly and more efficiently. So here again is the visualization that we have of the cycle. 2 weeks ago, Boris talked about the scheduling and pre-registration and the point of service. Last week, we talked about charge capture and coding. This week, we're going to take a quick dive into claim submission and payer follow-up. And next week, Boris will be with you again to finish out this series and talk about remittance processing, appeals, collections, and analysis. Again, today we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into claim submission and payer follow-up. One of the ways we've conceptualized revenue cycle, because revenue cycle is a process with different workflows, a process with workflows and interdependencies. Sometimes it's helpful to visualize where each of these parts of the cycle sit. We've talked about having certain activities that need to take place prior to service, certain activities that need to take place during the service. Last week we talked about the charge capture and coding that really happens at the time that the intervention is occurring. Today we're going to start the first set of activities that are going to happen after the service, and that will be the claim submission and then the follow-up for claims that are paid, either not paid or paid at a rate that you did not expect them to be, or just not paid at all without any notification. Claim submission, pretty straightforward. The definition is the submission of a billable fee to an insurance company via the required universal claim form. And the important piece of claim submission is assuring that your claim goes out clean. What are some of the errors? What are some of the problems or errors in claim submission that result in revenue loss or additional expense? Some of the things to think about is not only are you leaving money on the table, but we're increasing our costs. So every claim that's rejected or denied due to improper formatting or missing data elements or coding needs to be touched and resubmitted. So you're constantly going back and taking a look at a claim, trying to determine where the errors are, what the problem was, fixing the problem. That certainly costs time and energy and money. So not only maybe we getting denials and leaving money on the table, but we're increasing the cost structure that is necessary to get claims out the door. And anytime claims are delayed, require additional working, we're delaying cash. Cash coming in the door is an extremely important aspect of covering our operational needs of our clinics for a day-to-day basis. As you know, margins are non-existent in many cases, and delays in cash flow can have serious consequences, require us to go to our bank for borrowing, may need to delay other important purchases or use of those funds. So we can't make light of the loss in cash flow revenue related to poor billing operations. And finding, fixing, and resubmitting claims, it's redundant, and it unnecessarily diverts resources from other important tasks. Again, one of the messages, very clear messages that we've been sending is that we need to make sure that our internal operations, our internal workflows that support billing are efficient and effective. So claims. So those folks that are out there that are submitting claims now to the insurance companies, the managed care companies, the fee-for-service, you're submitting claims on the 837I institutional claim form. There are some clinics who may still be submitting claims on paper, and there are individual requirements that the different insurance companies may have related to their private insurance business. One of the things that OMH is working hard on is to assure that there are standard billing requirements for all the Medicaid managed care companies for accepting claims and using the 837I in the structure that is consistent with the current fee-for-service billing structure. Same structure, the same procedure codes, the same rate codes, and proper use of the modifiers as described by the Office of Mental Health and DOH. So, you'll be entering the rate code in the header of the claim as a value code. Plans will have a complete listing of all the existing providers and rate codes as well as rate amounts by their MMIS provider ID and locator code and or their NPI and zip plus 4 digit. Again, when we get to resources later in the presentation, I'll be showing you where you can go and look for that file. We are recommending that all providers take a look at that file, make sure that their information is in there correctly. That's the information that's going to be provided to the plans. These are posted on the OMH and OASIS website. So in the claims on electronic, we'll be using the 837I. You'll need to have a rate code, a procedure code, a modifiers as needed, and units of service. If you were unavailable to or were unaware, the MCTAC provided 2 additional billing support webinars, one of which was Billing 101. That webinar was hosted by MCTAC, but the content was from Gwen Diamond, who is the point person at OMH for their billing and the transition to Medicaid managed care. Gwen spoke a great deal about rate codes, procedure codes, modifiers, and if you have questions about that after taking a look at the regulations, I would suggest you go on the MCTAC website to take a look at that presentation. That presentation was attended by a large number of clinics around the state. I think that you'll find it very helpful if you're a clinic provider to take a look at the modifier structure. And if you're a home and community-based service agency or are converting and going to build some of those, getting a better understanding of modifiers, how they fit into the billing and claiming structure will be important for you. The other piece that's going to be on there is units of service. I have taken a look at the documentation that OMH has provided, and from what I can tell, The services that we will billing, the clinic services, OASIS clinic services, ACT, PROS, it looks to me as the structure for billing those services under fee-for-service will be exactly the same for billing those under Medicaid managed care. If you are going to start billing home and community-based services for the first time, or you're going to include those services along with other services that you're billing, you'll really need to go in and take a look at the documentation about how those and the regulations around those services, including what a unit of service count will be that you'll need to put on your claim forms. That we really don't have time in these presentations to drill that deeply down into the actual claim form itself. But again, I'll be talking with you about some of the resources that are available to you that you can start taking a look at that data. OMH and OASIS is also providing crosswalks. That's to provide a link between the existing fee-for-service rate codes billing and the unique rate code, procedure code, modifier code combinations that will be required. That is posted out there, and you can take a look. Again, I think that the fee-for-service structure that it currently exists in the programs that we're billing will transition over to the managed care with no changes. And procedures and modifier code combinations have been created in such a way that even if the rate code does not exist, the plan should be able to differentiate between the various services and pay at the correct rate. A number of the managed care companies are certainly already paying on the APG rates for clinics, but one of the things we need to take into consideration is the conversion into Medicaid managed care means that the managed care companies will be paying new services, will be paying for services they may not have a lot of experience with, will be paying for services that were previously carved out. And the volume, the sheer volume of billing that's going to transition from fee-for-service over into the Medicaid managed care environment will be relatively large. So again, we anticipate that there might be some bumps in the road and that OMH is trying to set up a structure to make that transition as smooth as possible. But the more that we can have our shops clean and efficient and as error-free as possible, the better position you will be in. So claims submission. Claims can be submitted directly or through a clearinghouse. Again, I think that one of the things that we're certainly recommending is that people submit claims electronically. You can submit a claim directly to the managed care company, or as you, based upon their structure, they may have in the managed care, you should be able to submit those to eMedNey as we're doing now. Electronic submission is obviously much more efficient, and to submit the A37I as opposed to putting together paper claim forms and sending them out. You can submit the claims directly to the managed care companies. You can submit claims directly to eMedNey. Or you can submit your claims through a clearinghouse. What we do find is that clearinghouses are used fairly frequently in New York City and the surrounding region, given the number of different insurance companies that providers need to bill. Once you get into upstate regions, you may be billing 2, 3, maybe 4 insurance companies at the most, and so you're able to accommodate all the special cases that you have from insurance companies by billing directly. It's not as easily accomplished in the New York City region, so many people will submit their claims to a clearinghouse as part of their billing process. The clearinghouse will then scrub those claims, format them correctly, and send them to the individual insurance companies as required. Now, one of the nice things about the clearinghouses is that they can, in fact, scrub the claims before they get out the door, but that scrubbing of the claims is limited to taking a look at the structure and the data that you're providing for them. So even if you bill and send to the clearinghouse can scrub some claims. If you're billing directly, you really need to have a system in place that you can clean your claims up before they go out the door. Most billing systems or standalone billing systems or electronic health records that you bill from have functionality built into them that will take a look at your claims. First of all, they'll take and make sure that the claims are formatted correctly, that all the required data elements are present, and they're in their proper place before they would commit that claim to submission. The other things that your EHRs can do for you is to not only take a look at the claim and the way that it's designed and whether the data elements are correct and formatted correctly, but also can take a look and make sure that your regulatory requirements around your documentation of the service is correct. That is that it'll go take a look at the timestamp on the progress note to assure that the duration of the service lines up with the actual service code. So if you provide a 30-minute psychotherapy visit, then it will build a proper code as opposed to a 45-minute. And so your system will take a look at the timestamp on the progress note and ensure that the proper procedure code goes out the door. The other thing that's very helpful in an EHR in terms of your cleaning your claims is to assure that the documentation was completed properly. A lot of the EHR billing systems will suspend a claim if the progress note was not completed. That is, the claim goes into a holding status. Somebody is notified that the documentation is incomplete, allowing time for the documentation to be completed before the claim is submitted. The other piece an EHR may look at is whether the service was on the treatment plan. As you know, you can't bill services that are not properly articulated on the plan, and the treatment plan was properly signed and is up to date. So if you have a system that can scrub your claims at the technical level, then you need to apply those edit checks to your claim to assure that they're formatted correctly and they're not going to get rejected. Secondarily, you need to have a system in place that assures that the clinical documentation to support the claim is correct and accurate and completed in a timely fashion. This certainly is what is looked at upon subsequent audit when either an auditor from a health plan or from the state would come in to assure that your progress notes are completed, that the timestamp matches on the note, matches the proper billing code, that treatment plans are in place and timely and supported, assuring that all those pieces are in place prior to this claim being submitted is absolutely essential to assure that over time you'll be able to keep that revenue upon a subsequent audit. The other piece we talk with people about is certainly get your claims out as soon as is feasible. Have a standard billing cycle. I mean, certainly certain services that you may be billing, your care management, your ACT services, your pro services, are really a monthly billing cycle. You need to have workflows in place that dictate when paperwork needs to be done, when you close out your month, that is, that all information to support a claim needs to be in the system, and that those expectations need to be clearly articulated to folks. Those services that are not monthly services that you can bill on a more regular basis, again, you should have a workflow structure in place. You should have certain expectations of your billing staff in terms of when bills go out the door. And you need to monitor those expectations and monitor the staff to assure that those timelines are being maintained. One of the things you don't want is those kind of cash flows delays that we've talked about because you have a bottleneck in your system. Many times within a workflow environment, systems can get slowed down, they can get delayed. There's not a good feedback mechanism to know that that's happening. Suddenly you have revenue reductions that were unanticipated, that generate a fair amount of problems. So again, build a structure, have your workflows clearly articulated, clearly identify each step in the process, who is responsible for it, what the timelines are, and some methodology to assure that those timelines are being met on a regular basis. It's important to have redundancies in your system to assure that your billing goes out on a regular basis when certain key billing staff may need to be on vacation, may need to either leave the organization temporarily or leave the organization permanently. Having redundancies within your structure to assure that billing goes out timely and accurately is critical. Those are one of the workflows that should always be occurring in the timelines that you're expecting them to. And we talked already about this. Clearinghouses can do in third party. I forgot to mention that if you're not only are there clearinghouse, but there are billing services that will be available to you. Some of the folks who may be billing for the first time, it might be useful for you to look into the services that know how to bill New York State Medicaid. Many of those applications are web-based applications. Under those kind of circumstances, you would not need to bring in your new infrastructure, servers, billing software, staff to be able to support that. You can pay a fee to a third-party vendor who will host the billing application, will work with you to configure that application to your needs. Look for those third-party billing folks who have experience in billing New York State Medicaid. If you're moving in that direction, I would suggest that you certainly ask for references, talk to people that they're already doing billing for, get a sense of cost, get a sense of startup time, get a sense of what your configuration and training costs are going to be. It is a reasonable way, certainly, of moving forward in standing up billing capabilities relatively quickly. The other thing for folks to think about is if you're going into this billing for the first time, You may want to talk with sister agencies, like agencies who already have experience in billing, see if there might be some opportunities for collaboration, for management service agreements, to be able to build some efficiencies and leverage the experience that another like agency may have in this billing arena already. So there's a couple of options that you can take a look at, and I suggest if you haven't started doing that yet, you need to begin taking a look at what's available to you. Like I said before, the clearinghouse does a good job of scrubbing claims. The electronic health record does a better job because it will take a look at your clinical documentation. If you have a billing system that is not billing off an EHR, if you've got a third-party billing relationship, or you're billing, you don't have an EHR and you're billing through your clearinghouse, you really need to be thinking about having a good quality assurance program to assure that your claims are going out correctly, that your clinical documentation in all cases supports the claim that's going out the door. That will be, again, an absolutely critical step to assure that you can keep your revenue going out in future periods subsequent to an audit. So that's it about the claims. You know, the only thing that I'd like to again press on is to have a very clearly articulated workflow assuring that your clean claims go out the door, that they go out the door in the time frames that you've outlined, and that they go out the door clean to eliminate the redundant work and effort on the back end that will be necessary to take a look at each of those claims. And we'll talk a little bit about this in payer follow-up. So you've got your claims, you got them out the door, you get a remittance statement back, and you take a look at your remittance statement, and you billed $22,000 and you received payment for $18,000. Now the process starts with, first of all, going in and identifying the variance between what you billed and what you were paid. You normally will then be able to go in and find out whether they were denied outright or the claim was paid at a different rate than you billed. So you should, in all cases within your billing system, you should know what dollar value was the batch that you billed out. You should be able to, at the claim level, reconcile what you billed to what you were paid by the insurance company. And you really need to attempt to determine the reason for each claim variance. And we'll talk a little bit about that and why that's important. I spoke before about the MCTAC webinar that we did on Billing 101. We also did a MCTAC webinar that was explicitly talking about what to do about denials. I'm going to give an overview here, but that presentation had an hour webinar presentation on denials, what to look for, how to be thinking about those, what process you need to have in place. There's also a series of frequently asked questions that will be posted to the OMH website, explicit to the questions that people had about denial. So again, go back, keep an eye on the MCTAC website for not only the presentation, but also the frequently asked questions that are really the types of questions that came to people's mind as they were listening to the presentation. So some of the things that we'll follow up that we'll talk a little bit about today is, what are some of the common reasons that claims can be denied? Well, claims may have been submitted after the allowable time period, delays in your processing. You could have a claim that required an authorization that was not authorized. Client could have not been eligible at the time that you submitted your claim. Assuring eligibility prior to claim going out the door is one of the critical elements to assure that you are eliminating your denials. It could be a Medicare claim that was billed on an individual who was not a Medicare provider, or an private insurance claim that required a certain provider credential that wasn't there. Claim could have an incorrect client or provider data that could get denied. There could be a technical error. You could have a system that properly doesn't look at your claims before they go out the door, and you could have a technical error. Many times what you'll find is that you have a technical error in your system that may reject an entire batch that you've submitted. That's a little bit easier to chase down. You may find that you'll have an individual or a series of individual claims within a batch denied for technical error that you need to go into your system and take a look at and see what's going on. There's also problems where the payer has a technical issue. It's certainly not unheard of for the payer to deny for a claim incorrectly because of errors and they have in their systems, either from a processing end or from their own accuracy of their data. So it's extremely important that you understand where your errors are, why your claims are being denied, and then what actions are necessary to be able to adjudicate those claims. Adjudicating those claims are certainly to go in is figure out, again, why, what the error was, what caused the claim not to be paid, what actions are necessary, who you need to contact, what needs to be corrected, so you can resubmit those claims as promptly as you can. So, when you find errors in your own system, one of the things you have to take a look at is, in what we're suggesting for folks, is that they have a quality improvement program that they can leverage as they find errors in their system and what is necessary to fix those. System breakdowns can sit in a number of different areas. Again, it could be a bottleneck in the system. It could be errors in configuration or setup in your billing system. It could be human errors. They could be input errors. There's a whole variety of different kinds of things that are happening, but it's important for you to understand where your errors are, what is causing them, and then what steps you need to take to eliminate them. On the other hand, there is some follow-up that you may need to do with the payers, and this is going to go on all the time. So one of the things that we're asking people to think about, and this is related to the fact that volume for the insurance companies for their billing is going to go up significantly. So if you do have to contact the payer to begin working through denials, rejections, claims that are paid for less than what you're anticipating, to be thinking about, first of all, be organized. Know what you're talking about. Have everything at your fingertips to be able to answer the questions at the time that you are able to secure contact with the payer. Have the data that you need in front of you. If you're waiting in a queue to get finally to speak with a service representative, and you want to be able to have everything that you need in front of you so you can clearly make your case and finally know what you're talking about. And what we normally suggest is that you select folks in your billing shop that one of their primary responsibility is working with the payers. Sometimes the payer relationship is a person-to-person relationship, and it's important that we represent ourselves in an organized, professional manner, that we're able to get to the be able to articulate clearly what we believe the problem is, but to do that in a way that will work. And a lot of times that's picking a person in your shop who has good communication skills, is well organized, really understands the billing systems, understands the different payers to be able to clearly articulate with those payers in trying to adjudicate these claims. And if you get to a point that you just can't quite figure it out, and you're getting the same error over and over again, and you think you understand, but something's just not working out, then ask for technical supports from the plans if you don't understand the requirement. They're really required by DOH and OMH to work with each of you individually, if necessary, to assure that you can bill correctly and accurately in a timely fashion. So don't be afraid, if necessary, to ask for your technical support. Continue to work denied and underpaid claims until they're resolved, and you have to have a system for knowing that a claim is currently in the process of discovery. That is if you have 15 claims that somebody's working, then those claims need to be followed up on a regular basis. Their status needs to be reviewed. You need to understand where they are in the process. So at the end of the day, you'll either know that that claim is going to be paid, either in full or a reduced amount, or it's going to be denied outright, and you have no ability to be able to receive revenue for that claim. So have a system that you know where your denied or rejected claims are in the process of review, so they just don't fall off the map, and work them until they're resolved. We really suggest that you track your denials by payer and by reason. You want to identify, and I talked about this, are you having an internal processing or workflow problem that's leading to these? Is it a billing issue, setup problem? Is it the payer problem? So again, understanding why you're getting denied, understanding why you're getting rejected, and then putting a process in place to address that as quickly as possible is critical. Fix those internal issues as soon as possible. Repeating mistakes is very costly. I don't need to tell you that. Going back to errors over and over again is very time-consuming and very costly. Although we're talking with folks about conversion to Medicaid managed care, there are a number of folks out there who are billing private insurance, also maybe billing client fees directly. So we do put a slide in to speak to this briefly about outstanding fee. Outstanding client fee collection is very difficult and labor intensive. If you're doing private insurance business, as you know, movement to more and more higher deductible plans requiring higher co-pays, higher deductibles, private fee payments, and it really becomes very critical that you collect the fee at the front door when the service is rendered. I have a standard basic write-off if a fee is not collected. When the client walks in the door for their intervention, for their service, I figure that if it's not collected, then my chance of collecting is about 10 cents on the dollar. I discount those fees 90% if they're not collected at the point of service. So that's an important consideration. And you have to demonstrate some reasonable due diligence in collecting those fees. You can't just say, this is too hard, it's taking too much energy and too much time for me to chase down a $5 fee that wasn't collected. You really need to show some due diligence in your ability to collect those fees. You have to define what that reasonable effort is. There's no hard and fast rules, but you will need to demonstrate that you're doing your best to collect those fees. And then, you know, there's always the consideration what happens when people don't pay. What happens during the course of treatment that they don't pay, and what happens to terminated clients who return for your services that have an outstanding balance. Those are really considerations that you have to look at in-house and make your determination and determine how you're going to process and move forward with those. Again, client fee, it's a struggle, it's time-consuming, and it is always best if we collect those fees that are necessary at the point of contact. Enough said about that. So we talked about two things. We certainly talked about the standard kind of claims, how you want to think about your accuracy of those claims, how you want to make sure that your processes are in place, clearly articulated. Individuals within those workflows clearly understand what their responsibility is, that you're monitoring their work, that you're quickly finding problems within your system. We talked about also revenue coming in the door, assuring that at the claim level you reconcile each of the services that you sent out, the dollar value you are anticipating to get into the dollar value that you receive. What that variance is, why it is, and what changes are necessary and what activities you need to put forward to assure that if it's a system error, that's corrected. If it's a person error, that is addressed. If it's a workflow error or bottleneck, that those are addressed also. Please remember that payers make mistakes too. And when you talk to your payers, to make sure that you clearly understand what the issue is, that you have your information in front of you, that you're organized and that you are knowledgeable, and that you can best use that time that you have once you make contact with the payer. So as we've done a couple times before we ask you to chat any questions, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources that are going to be available to you. As part of the qualification process for managed care companies for billing Medicaid, they are required to have a comprehensive provider training and support program. I understand that some of those are starting to come online. And they will help you with the knowledge and skills and expertise to assist you in meeting the requirements. Keep an eye out for those and take advantage of those. And new providers should have a submission testing environment to work in prior to submitting live claims. So take a look and make sure that you're aware of where and when these trainings are, and avail yourself of them. The other set of resources that we've been pointing to for folks in all of our presentations is the information that's available on the OMH website. You'll see in this slide, this is the homepage on the Office of Mental Health's website. You'll see on the left-hand vertical menu, the top selection is the Behavioral Health Managed Care. When you click on that, you'll get an additional Phase 1, Phase 2. The information I'm going to talk about is under the Phase 2 tab. One of the pieces that you'll find extremely helpful is the New York State HARP Mainstream Behavioral Health Billing and Coding Manual. I've looked at that on a number of occasions. I had it out again last Thursday as we begin taking a look at some of the home and community-based waiver services. It clearly articulates not only the home and community-based, but also the mainstream behavioral health billing codes and the manual. The other thing that I like about that document, it has explicit links to it that will link you directly to regulations and additional information in each of the service areas that you are looking at. It's a very valuable document. I think it's put together very well, and it's something that if you haven't looked, you should download and make yourself quite familiar with that document. Another piece that you'll want to take a look at is the coding taxonomy. This gives you the required coding constructs for billing, the OMH governmental rates. As we talked about before, you'll be billing those rates for the first 24 months of the behavioral health services. The plans will need to program their system to accept these code combinations and then look through the rate table to ascertain the correct payment amounts for the various combinations. So understanding the taxonomy, understanding the coding combinations will be key. Again, I believe that the combinations in the current fee-for-service structure that you're able to build it will convert over to the managed care. I think the conversion of the home and community-based services, these will be new coding structures, new units of service, new modifiers that you need to be aware of. The other important piece for those who are looking, who are authorized or are applying to be able to build a home and community-based service, there's a fee schedule on that plan, on that document, and that website shows the required coding combinations for providers to build the plans for the provision of these services, and you'll want to take a look at those also. The other last piece in there that's helpful is the rate table. This is what I was talking about before, the information that's going to be provided to the plans. Get in there, make sure you're in there, that your data is in there properly, and because those are the information that's going to be passed along to the managed care plans. So we've come to the end of the content area today. I would like to open it up to any questions that you may want to chat in. I'm trying to see if I've seen any. I haven't seen any questions come in yet, so if you'd like to, we'll spend a couple minutes taking a look at any questions that you may have. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll certainly let you know that next Monday, again, we will have the fourth presentation. Boris will be doing that at 12 o'clock next Monday. I have a question that came in. How will the region be determined for managed care in New York City versus, i.e., Suffolk? Will it be by place of service? I'm not absolutely certain. I do know that on the OMH website, there is a list of all the managed care plans that are authorized to bill Medicaid managed care, and the areas that would be the boroughs and the counties that they're authorized to bill in. So I would start with taking a look at that document for your region to take a look at which plans are authorized to provide services to the programs that you may have in that region. I have a second question. Is it too early to ask what documentation will be required in order to support the per diem rate for peer support services? How will we be provided with more detailed information about that? Documentation requirements for support of the per diem rate for peer support services. That's a little bit outside of the scope, certainly, of this presentation. I think that one of the things that you may want to do is, if you haven't, clearly read not only the billing manual as it relates to those services, but also the regulations related to those services to see if the documentation requirement is clearly articulated there. If it's not, and as we move closer to the go live, my suggestion would be as you put together your explicit questions about that and then forward it to the Office of Mental Health. Let's see, is it too early? Let's go back up here. That was the documentation question. Thank you. All right. So as we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, I would like to, again, remind you next Monday will be the final series. We'll be putting together, we'll be working on our fall managed care technical assistance program, so keep an eye out on the website for those offerings. Another question, Medicaid, Medicare, dual coverage is carved out. What about commercial Medicaid? It is my understanding that the Medicare, Medicaid is the only dual coverage that is carved out. I can't say that I can answer that with 100% assurance, but that is what I believe to be the case. You may want to check with the Office of Mental Health to get a more accurate answer to that. And one more minute as we wait. If, in fact, you come up with a question after today's presentation that you're not sure about, what I do is suggest that you direct a question to the website that you see on the screen, which is the mctac.info@nyu.edu. Please put an RCM Learning Community questions in the subject line. If the person who asked the Medicaid, Medicare, and commercial Medicaid, if you'd like to send that question into this email address, we'll see if we can chase down the accurate answer for you and we'll send you an email back with that answer. You get another question, will the credentialing requirements change or will be equivalent to the Medicaid process? It's my understanding that the requirements will be similar to the current fee-for-service Medicaid process. the credentialing for the, again, there's a process that if your provider is Medicare eligible, that they have to be credentialed through the Medicare site before they can become Medicaid eligible. I have not heard that the credentialing process would be any different than it currently is. So I don't see any more questions coming in. So what I'd suggest you do is I'm going to go back. So if you do have a question and you think of it, please feel free to email it to us. If I gave you an answer that or was not able to give you a good answer, or please feel free to question us and we'll see if we can chase that down for you. So I don't see anything else coming in, so I want to thank you very much for your participation. Hope you join us next Monday for the last in the series. Please keep an eye open at the MCTAC or the CTAC website and the MCTAC website also to sign up for our additional offerings and trainings and to be able to find some of the offerings and trainings that we've already presented. Again, if you didn't see the Billing 101 or the Denial webinar, I would suggest that you take a look at those and look for the frequently asked questions that will be posted probably. If they're not out there, they should be out there in a week or so. I think that you'll find those extremely helpful and useful as you think about the claiming and the processing of denials. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Have a great week. It's been great working with you, and I hope you join Boris next week. Thanks a lot. Take care now. Bye-bye.